The ARV by Joshua Collins. Exterior highway day. A truck hauling a large fishing boat drives along an open highway. A signpost passes. Potomac River, 30 miles. Intercut. Inside the truck, Zachary Green Warfield, all-American-looking 30s, drives. A plethora of governmental badges dangling from his rearview mirror. Example, CIA, DARPA, NASA, all with his face and name on them. Exterior, Potomac River, shore, later. Zach arrives at the desolate river. Seems Zach's arrived at a good time. Zach gets out of his truck and starts the process of launching his boat onto the river. As this process happens,
Zachary Green Warfield was an American engineer and analyst for the U.S. government and private industries, helping with the rover satellites to Mars for NASA, co-founding Omnis, a defense technology research company, even investigating the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Of all these great achievements, it would be his nuclear plasma battery that one could say sealed his fate.
exterior, Potomac River, later, golden hour. Zach is cruising down the river. He slows the boat down to a full stop, cutting off the engine entirely. He repositions his stance on the boat for a better view. It's silent for a moment. Another boat passes through, eventually coming to stop next to Zach's. Zach and the other men on the boat make eye contact. Zach waves with an attempt to make dialogue.
Thought I was the only one who knew of this view here. Here for the fireworks, right?
The men on the other boat don't say much, if anything at all. Zach makes no attempt at conversing more. Zach simply nods and minds his business. Zach pops open a small cooler and grabs a beer. When off screen, a splash is heard. Zach still makes no effort to look. Zach gets his beer and heads to the wheel. As Zach makes his way up to the wheel, he notices another person on his boat. Zach stops in his tracks.
You need help or something?
The soaked stranger rushes Zach and hits him over the head with a blunt object. Zach falls dead to the floor. Thud. The soaked man then drags Zach's body to the boat's lower deck. Zach's body is then dumped into the river.
The plasma battery caught the attention of a certain authority.
Interior, 5-star restaurant, day. A small group of tailor-suited men meet at a luncheon. A group of about 5, one of which is Stanley Meyer, 42. Stanley is an average-looking man who wears glasses. The group mingle with each other while files are being passed around. One file is a diagram of an Otto hydrocell engine.
In 1998, notable hydrofuel cell inventor Stanley Meyer was having an official lunch with representatives of NATO. This new revelation with hydrofuel cells interested the department in U.S. military defense. Stanley, however, not interested in such productivity. Stanley wanted public use of this engine, but during this luncheon a toast would be made in honor of Stanley's breakthrough.
A man hands Stanley a glass, and everyone raises their glasses. A toast is made in Stanley's honor. Stanley drinks his glass. An approximate minute passes. Stanley suddenly stands up and begins to choke and soon starts to vomit. A few men at the table begin to nonchalantly take the files and leave, while Stanley loses his life rapidly. Stanley stumbles a few paces, then falls to the ground.
Stanley was reported to have died of an aneurysm that day, though officially Stanley's last words were, "They poisoned me." Stanley Myers' case has yet to be resolved.
Interior, UCLA College Auditorium, day. Ben Rich, 60s, gives a lecture to a graduating class at UCLA circa 1995. Behind him is a slide projection screen. An image of the company logo of Lockheed Martin is seen.
In 1995, retired CEO and chairman of Lockheed Martin, Ben Rich, gave a speech to the graduating class of UCLA. His speech covered the years as chief engineer at the highly secretive engineering firm, covering the field of aerotechnology. In the end, Ben closed with a radical truth of the current American aerotechnological development stage.
A slide of a black disc-shaped craft in the Earth's atmosphere pops up on the screen.
The average person would point up to this craft and swear they're looking at a UFO, a craft that's mystified us, causing a worldwide phenomenon. But there's nothing mystifying about this one. This one is ours. We build them. We have the technology to take E.T. home and be back in time for Monday Night Football. But this particular technology would take an act of God to implement publicly. It's mind-blowing, the things we now know, the things we can now do, but you could never know this, not unless you're willing to give up your life for it.
The once bored crowd of graduates are now beguiled by this image, along with Ben's closing statement. Exterior, Earth, sunrise. A full-scale view of our planet, our home. The sunrise creates an iconic light arc around the planet as it rises.
There is a common factor at play, a connection who moves through the crowd in search to know what you know, see what you've seen. It looks for the tunnel of light only to push it back into complete...
The screen goes black. Then, legend, Redding, California, 2012. Exterior, trailer park morning. The sun rises on a quiet trailer park, vicinity somewhere in Redding, California. A dark blue Ford with tinted windows drives through the trailer park. Interior, trailer kitchen. A small, cluttered kitchen that's cooped up in the corner of the trailer. Cooking in this kitchen is Mark McDonald, 50s, nerdish but appealing, wears wide, thin-framed glasses. Mark is in the middle of scrambling some eggs. The TV news echoes in the background. Mark moves to the sink with pan in hand. His eyes naturally gaze out the window. His gaze freezes as he sees the dark blue Ford parking in his trailer driveway. Mark's movement suddenly shifts to a complete stillness. Mark watches two men get out of the car. They wear Air Force attire. Without thinking about it, Mark sets down the pan and steps back out of the kitchen and into his living room. Mark turns off the TV and focuses on listening. He is anticipating a knock at his door. Mark doesn't move. In fact, Mark waits for another knock. Mark looks around, seeing he has nowhere to run. Interior, car, moments later. Mark is inside the dark blue Ford. Two Air Force men in front. The driver, Captain Kent Marsdale, 30s, and Captain Luis Alayas, 30s. These two men, intimidating, muscular, do not ask, do not tell, military types, ride in silence. Mark is not at all comfortable in this silence.
I told my wife I'd be back shortly, so
Mark waits for a response. Captain Alayas hands Mark an envelope. It's sealed with directions on it. For Mark McDonald. Mark opens the envelope. He pulls out the contents, one of which is a photo with a personal note on the back of it. Mark breezes over the note. Mark isn't able to make sense of the note.
Does that help you?
I can't say that it does.
Then I can't help you.
Well, if you knew why,
My clearance level is on a strict need-to-know basis, Mark.
on the back of this photo, it states that the person is looking forward to seeing both of us. Where's this other person?
Hold that thought.
Exterior motel, moments later. A small, cheap motel tucked somewhere between a trucker's restaurant and a strip club. The car pulls into a motel parking lot. Both Alayas and Marsdale get out of the car. Marsdale opens Mark's door. Mark steps out and follows both men towards a motel room. Interior, motel room, same. Stephen Bradley, 50s and balding, but still in good shape, sits on the edge of the sketchy motel. He's a nail biter, and at this point, bitten down half his nails. Stephen hears the door open. He jumps up from the bed. Captain Marsdale and Alayas walk in, leaving Mark standing at the foot of the door. Stephen sees Mark for the first time in years.
Mark? Shit.
Mark is as surprised as Stephen is to see him.
I thought I was headed to Utah for a promotion. Why are you here? What the hell is going on?
Utah?
Alayas and Marsdale have their bags and head out the door.
Moving out! They didn't mention that. Told me that someone wanted to see me or us. Also, they gave me this.
Mark hands Stephen the photo. Stephen glances at the photo, seeing the note on the back of it.
I initially wasn't too concerned, but seeing you here, frankly, I'm rather concerned now.
Maybe this is some kind of prank.
Mark walks out of the motel room. Stephen follows behind. Exterior, motel room, parking lot, same. Alayas steps into the driver's seat of the dark blue Ford. Mardale looks at both Mark and Stephen.
Got a strict ETA. Your requester has a departure of 2000 hours. We gotta roll.
Mark looks at Stephen.
Could be an elaborate prank, or someone really wants to see us.
Exterior, highway, dusk. The dark blue Ford is cruising down a long and almost empty highway. A signpost reads, I-15, Utah, 805 miles. Intercut. The Ford. Mark and Stephen are in the back seat. Mark sits quietly as Stephen is anxiously adjusting his seatbelt.
Couldn't we just have flown?
Highly restricted airspace doesn't allow it.
Alayas starts to light up a cigar.
Don't do that. Not here.
It's fine.
He looks back to Mark and Stephen.
It's fine, right, guys?
Mark and Stephen don't say anything.
See, it's fine. No one cares.
I care. Smells like wet geriatric farts.
Alayas lights his cigar anyway. Mardale looks at Alayas with a hard glare.
All right. I see how it is. You'll get yours.
The silence continues. Alayas blows smoke rings out the window and then decides to be the nice guy and toss the cigar out the window.
So, Mark, let's pretend that I care, and you tell me what you do for a living.
Freelance concept artist. I mean, I was at one point.
And what about you, Stephen?
Wound up at Boeing, analyzing project data.
That's it? No nuclear physicists or missile program directors? Just an unemployed artist and a paper pusher?
Why do you pretend to care?
We are headed to Utah.
No, that wasn't at all obtuse.
It's a need-to-know thing, and I'm not at liberty to go into details, etc., etc., etc.
Don't listen to shitheads yapping. He has no idea what's up in Utah.
For your information, you misinformed man-child, I do know that SAPs are popping up in hangars.
Special access programs, huh? Interesting.
Mark looks at Stephen while toying with a question in his head. Mark pulls out the photo, looking at it, then
I guess it really depends on what one knows.
Stephen glares at Mark.
Mark?
I know more than I let on. Something I learned from the brass holes.
Mark chuckles. Stephen looks at Mark.
Why is that funny?
The term bring back some memories.
So, how do you two know each other?
Knew each other.
What happened?
Long story.
ARV. A what?
Mark is not at liberty to talk about it. Are you, Mark?
Mardale looks at Stephen, surprised and humored.
Whoa, this just got interesting.
Mark glances at Stephen.
I'm all ears.
Mark puts away the photo. He looks at Stephen.
Come on, Mark. Talk. Mark. Talk to us.
Mark looks at Mardale.
I swear to God, Mark, if you go on...
Alien replicated vehicle.
Jesus Christ.
Mardale smiles. Mark stops for a second.
It's not what it sounds like. It's
It's the very thing I told you to shut up about.
Hey, Stephen, relax. No one in this car really cares what you two say.
Then Mark doesn't have to talk about it.
And he doesn't have to, but...
He wants to. Don't you, Mark? Go on, Mark. We got 12 hours to kill.
Mark looks back at the photo. We finally see its contents. A concept sketch of what appears to look like the mechanics of a UFO.